ready to install the strain gauge. So again, they come in this blue package, and inside they've got the strain gauges subdivided in these separate cells. So you'll want to grab your tweezers to help you grab a hold of the strain gauge. It will be, let's do this end one. It will be inside it reminds me of like the little glass plates that you would use to look at things under a microscope, except for this packaging opens like a butterfly's wings, so you just have to spread them apart. In order to grab the strain gauge, I always like to have the two copper pieces facing towards my dominant hand, which is my right hand, so that way I can use my tweezers to grab the strain gauge and grab in between the two copper pieces, so that way I do not harm the strain gauge in any way. So pull it out, and then you place it on top of your glass working area. Make sure that the copper pieces and the grid is facing up. And then you're going to use your specialty tape here. We need about, I would say, 3 to 4 inches of tape to place down on top of your strain gauge. And again, I like to try to center the strain gauge between the width of the tape. Doesn't have to be perfect, but it just kind of helps you to get a better sense of what is positioned in a central location. When you're peeling it up, peel up at a low bank angle to make sure that your strain gauge is sticking to the tape and not your glass. Then we will transfer our strain gauge to our aluminum beam. Again, you want to position your strain gauge in the middle of the circle, okay? So when we put it on the edge here, we want to try to use those little triangles in the center of the grid portion of the strain gauge so that it aligns with the circle, the center of the circle on the beam. Okay, so try to give you a close-up view of this. This strain gauge got a little crooked there. Oh goodness. So if we're looking at the strain gauge in the middle of the circuit, the little grid, there should be some triangles that are pointing in. You want to line those up with the center of the circle on your beam. Okay? So once that is done, you might also pay particular attention to the copper pieces. They're pointing outward because when we start soldering our wires, it'll help us if our wires are draping over this end of our beam as opposed to all running in the same direction, because I think it's confusing enough with this many wires, but if they're all running in the same direction, it's going to be even harder for you to keep track of which wire goes to which strain gauge. So I would make sure that those copper pieces of your strain gauge are pointing outwards. Just like this one is pointing outwards, you want this one to point the opposite direction as well, okay? So now that we have our strain gauge in a position that we like, we're going to peel it back. And you want to peel it back up to where the bottom of the strain gauge, there's about 5 or 6 centimeters. Left. at the base of the strain gauge, so that way we can apply our catalyst. The catalyst is in a clear glass bottle, has a black lid, and the liquid itself appears purple or maybe blue. Doesn't take very much, so you can scrape the excess off before applying to the beam, and then you'll want to apply a little to the back side of your strain gauge. Let this dry for about 1 minute. Right, and then next we will use our adhesive. It appears to come in a bottle that looks like super glue. And remove the lid, put a drop on the beam, and then you will want to peel your tape back up. And try not to do what I just did, which was attach my two pieces together, but we can solve that quickly just by cutting the tape. Not a problem. So hopefully yours does not stick like mine did, but you'll just lay your tape back down, use a finger to swipe the glue. You're going to want to push that drip of adhesive all the way through to make sure that you get it evenly distributed across your strain gauge. We're going to want to apply what's called the white thumb pressure, so whenever I add pressure to my thumb, it should appear white. The nail itself should appear a little white. If it is, you know you're applying enough pressure. So I'm going to do that now. Add the pressure to the strain gauge for about 3 minutes.